Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 16th of August, comes to you from London. And we start, as always, by looking at the dollar. The dollar actually just making quite a strong recovery the last few days. So we've sort of broken this resistance level, and this is just starting to look a little bit like a bottom. Calling a bottom is a bit of a mug's game, but and we are still in a bearish trend on the medium-term chart, but we have just put in a low, then a higher low, and now just looking to be a higher high when looking at that daily chart. That shows up a little bit more clearly here how we've broken the resistance on the 60-minute chart. So we are just looking a little bit more positive on the dollar at the moment. We do have an upside target of 2%. Medium-term targets we're short of, but we did seem to bounce on this long-term support level. Looking at the euro just weakening as in reverse, and this just looking a little bit toppy. Again, we're above the trend, but it looks like we're just going to revert back to unwind some of this move. And so for the moment, the euro just looking a little bit more bearish than it has done. We've only got one downside target, about 2% here as well, and we just do see this opening out pattern in the long term, suggesting that the euro is just harder to call. Looking at the Japanese yen, dollar looking strong here as well, weaker yen, stronger dollar. And looking at the sterling, sterling has fallen away yesterday on those inflation numbers, so it is falling back against the dollar, having activated a downside target to 124, about 3.3%. Looking against the euro, sterling hitting new lows here, and we see that on the daily chart, really testing last year's low of about 110 post-Brexit. So we're coming back to test those lows, and if we break those lows, we look to the point and figure chart. One of the big advantages, we get a lot of data in a small window. We see here that would take us back to 2010, so we'd be starting to hear headlines of 7-year lows against the euro. Against the Swiss franc, we're seeing sterling falling here as well, and against the Australian dollar making new lows. Downside potential of 3%, 1%, so sterling going lower there. The S&P 500 index yesterday held steady, but still looking bullish in the medium and long term. Short term, there's uncertainty. And the Nasdaq just getting back above the cloud, but again, uncertainty and downside targets of 2.5% and 4%. So we are just seeing still uncertainty in the markets in the short term. The Dow still holding its bullish position on all three time frames, and the Russell 2000 still looking bearish in the short term. So the broader market is a little bit of a worry. The futures fairly unchanged this morning. The Nasdaq up 0.2%, so it does suggest we might open a little bit higher. The FTSE 100 is up quite strongly this morning. It's up 0.2%, but we're not seeing any clear direction at the moment. We see we're in this real sideways range for the last few months, and so FTSE is just a bit stuck in the doldrums really. And the FTSE 250 is still bearish below the cloud as well. The DAX is just putting in a recovery, that weaker euro helping there, and the Nikkei also just putting in a bit of a recovery on that weaker yen, strong dollar helping the market there. Hang Seng is still just looking a little bit bearish short term, and Shanghai also just looking a bit bearish short term. Indian market up today, but has been below the cloud as well. So most international markets still looking a bit worrying in the short term. The S&P 200 Australian index also just starting to look a little bit better, but really has been in the doldrums for the last few months. Brent crude is up this morning, above the $51 level, but bearish in the short term still. And WTI again, much the same picture. So a bit of a respite, but still bearish below the cloud. US nat gas falling back into bearish territory, having hit the $3 mark. And copper, quite a good bellwether for industrial production, just still struggling to get back into bullish territory. Taking a look at gold, we see here gold has been just falling back into bearish territory. But interestingly, we've now locked this column 7.7% upside if we can go and make a new high. So it's got a lot of work to do because we've pulled back quite substantially, about $20. Silver also bearish below the cloud. If we look at US Treasury yields, 10-year yield is also looking bearish. Apple looking strong, bullish above the cloud. Google still not recovered entirely, and Amazon much the same picture. Facebook is still holding its bullish position above the cloud, and Microsoft recovering as well, so looking better as well. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.